you actually just touched on something interesting, was who are you and who is inside of you? And I'd like to answer the question Jesus is inside of you. Now, what's interesting is that communion comes from the same word as another very familiar word, which is community. And so, first of all, I have to take out my notes. Give me 1 second. So, they're from the same root word, and so they kind of tend to have the same meaning. You take communion with God, and when you are together, you are in communion with each other, and basically creating community. So, one could say that the closest thing to being in communion with God here on earth is being in communion with each other, because Jesus is inside of each one of us. So, what I was thinking was, it's interesting we only decide to celebrate communion once a month, when in reality, we are in communion with God all the time whenever we sit down together, eat meals together. And so, it's funny because, hey, babe, can you go to Matthew? I pulled it up. It's Yeah, I'll just read it. Here we go. When evening had come, he sat down with the 12. Can you go to the next one? And as they were eating, Jesus took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." Then he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. For this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for the many and for the remission of sins. But I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until that day, when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." And then, so I kind of went and I kind of researched every time that Jesus talked about the communion message each time. So now we're on to Mark. And as they were eating, Jesus took the bread and blessed it and broke it and gave it to them and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And he took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. And he said to them, "This is my blood of the covenant, which is shed for many. Assuredly, I say to you, I will no longer drink of the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God." So then I went to Luke. And so far, all of these are pretty much exactly the same. And then, when you get to Luke, he said, when the hour had come, he sat down with the 12 apostles with him. Then he said to them, "With fervent desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I say to you, I will no longer eat of it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God." Then he took the cup and gave thanks and said, "Take this and divide it among yourselves. For I say to you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes." And he took the bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." So, what he's saying there is not, hey, just take communion every month and do it in remembrance of me. Remember me once a month. He's saying, whenever you sit down together and eat, remember me. So, instead of, hey, let's remember Jesus, and let's peel back the cellophane foil and eat the cracker and drink the grape juice, he's saying, sit down every day when you eat and remember me. Now, if you could pull up the two different scriptures, or the two different pictures that I put up there. The first one is very familiar. It is the Jesus sitting down at the Last Supper with his disciples. The second, you might understand, is the washing of the feet. Now, a lot of people don't understand or see this in the Bible, that these two happen on the exact same night, around the same time. Now, what's interesting is the book of John doesn't mention communion at all, but it solely mentions the washing of the feet. And Jesus very much stresses, well, actually, could you just pull up the book of John? Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hand, and that he had come from God and was going to God, rose from supper and laid aside his garments, took a towel and girded himself. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. Then he came to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him, Lord, are you washing my feet? Jesus answered and said to him, What I am doing you do not understand now, but you will know after this. Peter said to him, You shall never wash my feet. Jesus answered him, If I do not wash your feet, you have no part with me. So Simon Peter said to him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. Obviously, he wanted to have all of him to be part of Jesus, if that's what it meant. Jesus said to him, He who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean, and you are clean, but not all of you. For he knew who would betray him, therefore he said, You are not all clean. So when he had washed their feet, taken his garments, and sat down again, he said to them, Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you say, Well, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. That right there is interesting because he's saying, once again, community is important, but also service in community, which is something that happens around here a lot. Service to the church and community within the church. Can you go to the last verse one more time? Just to the next one. That's it? Oh. For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. So I think it's just interesting to see that you can have community and you can have service because John solely stressed the washing of each other's feet, and then all of the other Gospels solely stressed the communion. So you have 3 parts communion, 1 part service. So it's cool that today is Social Sunday because that also stresses communion with one another. So I was thinking when I was preparing this, why not have everybody stand up and go and greet each other and